everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Sermon, Bethany Church podcast. Pastor Steve Musto here with special guest, my wife, Kathy. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
We are talking about, I asked you to join me today because of the topic. And we're going to talk about something that you and I have kind of wrestled through. And so we're talking about money, and I want to, as often as we talk about money in our world, and it's just a part of our world, sometimes the practicality of how to deal with money eludes us or evades us. And we have, in many ways, probably farmed out the idea of handling money to places like financial planners and banks and things that are, in certain cases, outside the church. And that shouldn't be the case. We should be able to talk about money without an eye roll or without this being a big deal, because Jesus talked about it a lot, and it's an important part. And so that's what we're going to do today. Not because we chose this topic to say this is a good time to talk about money, but Jesus is talking about it with his disciples in the Sermon on the Mount. And as you might guess, the upside-down kingdom has a thing or two to say about money. So would you read the passage for us, and then we'll talk about a little bit more about it. So we're in Matthew chapter 6.
Okay. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father in heaven. So whenever you give to the poor, don't sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be applauded by people. Truly, I tell you, they have their reward. But when you give to the poor, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you.
What I'm excited to teach about this passage is that it is not what many of us, Jesus is not saying what many of us assume. We translate the word secret here, to give in secret. And that's not exactly, the idea of anonymity is not exactly what Jesus is going after.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah, okay. So I'll unpack this more fully in the message, but essentially Jesus is not talking about an anonymity just among other people. He's talking about it within our hearts. He's talking about what is the cure for this heart that wants to be recognized for things all the time. Mm-hmm. And that is that we have to give in such a way that we don't seek recognition. So let's just, the very next passage, I preached on this last week, is prayer and fasting. So Jesus says, don't pray on street corners to be seen by people. What is the answer? The answer is not, we'll never pray. No, of course, the answer is pray mostly internally. But he doesn't say, never pray publicly. And the same is true here. If we're going to say that you're never allowed to be recognized in any way for your giving, we have to say, well, is that true of prayer too? And that's not true. Yeah. I pray publicly for a living. So, just about anywhere we go, I'm at a party or whatever, people say,
always asked to
I'm
pray.
always asked to pray. It's like, hey, the professional prayer is here. Let's have him do it. So this is just part of it. And I think there's a lesson there with money as well. And it's not that every single dollar we give needs to be a secretive thing. This is an attitude of the heart. Yeah. And so we'll unpack that a little bit more.
Because that phrase of don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, that's a confusing one.
Yeah.
Like, how does that even work?
Because it's not possible.
It's not possible.
So. Yeah, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole just mentally with this as I was preparing for the message, because I thought to myself, is it even feasible physically for your body to do something without the rest of your body being aware.
Were you doing like experiments in your office
No,
trying to figure
I
out?
didn't get that far. That would have been fun though. But I was thinking, can I think of a time when your hand, does something and you don't know, because your brain
tells you.
Yeah, your
Sure.
brain fires the neurons and whatever. So we have sympathetic nervous system, something, I forget all of that from my days of high school biology, but there's, we don't tell our hearts to beat, so that's going on. We don't tell ourselves to breathe or to blink. Our bodies just do that. But there's something in there. There's something really interesting in there. And that whole idea of the body, we're used to in the church world, we're used to saying, well, the body is the church, right? So what he's saying is don't let one part of the body know that what the rest of the part of, and that's not true either, because that's not even in their view yet. That's 30 something years later with the Apostle Paul, who comes up with that analogy.
Yeah.
But so that idea of body at being the church is probably not
accurate here.
Not accurate here. So sorry, did I cut you off?
I was going to say no. I think it's interesting though that in the church body now, as we're talking about our modern day, money is one of those things that we just kind of shy away from all the time. And we are very private about it. We are very, even I would say secretive sometimes about it in some traditions. In other traditions, it's very well known, like what people give. And, there are certain things. But that, it's something that is interesting to think about. How we deal with it is a very personal thing. Whether it's within the church body or in our own homes.
Yeah.
You and I talk all the time about how different people have different values about how they're going to spend their money. And Jesus here isn't saying, don't spend it on this, don't spend it on this, don't spend it on this. It's more of the heart posture that goes along with it.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about the different values conversation is always interesting, because we were talking about that. There are people who say, I don't understand how do people buy this or buy that, but they have a $25,000 boat sitting in their driveway that other people drive by and go, why in the world would you want a boat?
Right. Right.
And the UTVs or hunting stuff or the second homes or all of these things.
Right. And we can sit
gym memberships.
Right. We can sit and say you shouldn't be spending on this or you shouldn't be spending on that. But everyone's got a certain amount that they're accountable for.
Right.
And God wants us to be accountable with what He's given us in those resources, but He also wants us to enjoy with how He's wired us to enjoy things in His kingdom. So and that looks differently for everybody.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because we have walked this road a little bit as a married couple on how we handle money, how we deal with money. And so whenever we've done like premarital counseling with a young couple or talk to a couple about money, we have some standard things that we say to those couples, and we share parts of our journey and things that have worked for us. And I'd like us to talk a little bit about that as we move forward, because you and I were raised in very similar environments where both of our parents were sets of parents were givers. That was just a part of what we did. So you grew up in an environment where mom and dad gave sacrificially. I grew up in an environment where mom and dad gave sacrificially. And I think I've told the story before of my parents traveled a lot because they were on the road they were gospel singers. But when they were not home and we kids were home by ourselves, we would be responsible for going to the drawer and getting out the tithe check and bringing it to church. Yeah. And so, it's sort of a guarantee that we had to go to church. Yeah. But that was just part of it. So they roped us into that. They pulled us in.
So we hadn't talked about this before, but that's an interesting thought, though, in that how we were raised because we visually saw them give
Yeah.
on a regular basis. I have very clear memories of my dad reaching into his sport coat and pulling out the check out of the inside pocket, and putting it in the plate as it passed by.
Probably a blue blazer.
Probably, and a striped tie.
Yep.
But because all of our giving really now these days is online,
Yeah.
our kids don't see us do that
Yeah.
anymore.
No, it's true.
And it's an interesting thing to think about. How do we train our kids in that when so much of our giving or so much of our spending is behind the wall of the screen,
Yeah.
How do we do that well?
And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the specific mechanism of giving.
Yeah.
But first, because I think there's something there. I think you're touching on something that's really good. And I think that's one of the things that has to be decided. But first, here's some of the things that we, as a married couple, we decided to do. We, with very little conversation about it, we decided to combine our money, combine our accounts.
Yeah.
So when we got married, you were working, I was working. It was not his money, her money. It was always our money. That was part of the deal.
Yep.
And I know there are different points of view on this. There's nothing biblical that says you have to combine your money, anything like that. But this is what has worked for us over the years, is to have it combined. And as part of that, though, you have a good math mind, and you were always the most comfortable with the bill paying and the details of things. You're still a way better detail person than I am. And so you've always been kind of in charge of making sure the bills get paid and the financial side of things. All right, so from the guy on the other side, the person on the other side, who's not in charge of that, it is easy to be out of sight, out of mind with finances. So talk about that from your perspective. What's that been like?
Yeah. So it works really well because we are kind of in our sweet spots and as far as gifting of the different responsibilities we have in our marriage. And this was one of the things that, like you said, was my kind of my sweet spot. So I've done that. What it does, though, is creates this weird power dynamic in a marriage. I kind of turned into your accountant in some ways, and so you would want to spend something or buy something, you'd be like coming to me with hat in hand. Can I please spend this money? Yeah. Which nobody should be in that position in a marriage. We're doing this equal, so it just creates. It can create some tension and create some different power dynamics than probably what should be there. So we've had to work through that. I mean, we've had those conversations where I'm like, I'm not giving you permission to do anything. This is our money. And so much of it comes down to communication about it and trust for each other, certainly. But that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Part of the trust. So we just don't have any secrets about. The only secrets we have financially from each other when it comes to birthday or Christmas.
Christmas presents, yeah.
Yeah. Don't check the account. You're going to wreck Christmas. So there are sometimes those kinds of things. But outside of that, I don't have credit cards you don't know about. You don't have stuff I don't know about. Yeah. So it's open. I mean, you have passwords to all the accounts. I have the passwords to all the accounts. We can go in and see that. And that has bred trust, and it is also relationship is risk. Marriage is risk. And we have said this very often. When you go into marriage, you're really saying, I give you permission, and that includes permission to hurt me. Mm-hmm. And you can hurt each other more so than anybody else can hurt you. So we don't have any financial secrets from each other. Yeah. And with that, we've had to put in place something else, which is, while we don't have a, please can I buy this, we do talk about financial decisions all the time.
Yep. So one of the things that we put in place, if you remember, when we were first married, and we all go through times living in plenty and living in want, and we were in want
Yep.
often and throughout our marriage. And so there's got to be a balance, though, of holding on to money too tight versus living in trust and faith that you're going to have enough.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did to kind of create that balance was to say, okay, if you're going to spend more than $50 that is not part of our budget, just tell me, and we can talk about it. But up until we kind of put a cap on how much you're allowed to spend without telling the other person. So we both had that boundary, which was great. It gave us freedom, but it also kept things under control.
Right.
And
now
we weren't
this was
surprised by
never about
anything.
like groceries or that
No.
paying bills.
No.
This was always the extra
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, I think you're right. I think $50 was when we didn't have
And that's
much.
changed over the years,
The number has gone up.
The number's gone up a little bit. But still, I mean, that is within our kind of marriage DNA, though, that if there's something we're unsure of or something we're going, oh, I don't know if I should spend that, the door is always open for that conversation to go, okay, this is how much I want to spend on this. How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Not, is that okay, but how do you feel about it? Is this a good time? Is this a bad time? Can we swing this? Can we not? What? It's not a permission thing. It's a conversation.
Yep.
About what would be best.
Yeah. Partnership conversation.
Yep.
Okay, so part of the way we have done this over the years is because you are really good at the financial side of things, and in fact, at one point in time, you worked at a financial firm. Then it was really easy just to be out of sight, out of mind. I adopted a stance that I think, in retrospect, I took too far and was unhealthy, which was I told our financial advisor, we had a financial advisor, I told him, you get me for an hour a year. You can have my attention, undivided attention for 1 hour every year, but that's it. I don't want to give any more attention to this. And in my mind, I was saying that I don't want money to be that important that I'm paying all kinds of attention to it. So that was part of it. The other part of it was, you've got this. I don't necessarily why do I need to be involved in this? We kind of set some retirement stuff up and we're funding it every paycheck and I don't need to think about it. And that's what I was on autopilot. I had other things to do. And some of that was, I wasn't interested. And so I look back now and I go, I don't think that was totally healthy. And I think I needed to be paying a little bit more attention than I was. Not that anything happened or anything went wrong. It's just that I kind of left you as an island spinning out there.
Yeah.
Well,
right? And you're bringing up a great idea, though, so there are two ends of the spectrum. We can either live our lives counting every penny and hands, held tight over every penny and where it's going and what it's doing, and which is unhealthy, just as unhealthy as the other end of the spectrum of, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. God will provide,
Right.
There is a happy medium. There is a wisdom in how we are handling our money, where it's going, that we're wise in what's going on with it and where it's being spent. So yeah, it could go either way.
Yeah. All right. So some of that was probably more applicable for married couples, but let's start talking a little bit about some principles here that we have employed that are useful for anybody, no matter where they are, no matter what age they are. You and I, because we saw giving modeled for us, giving has always been a part of our married life. It was a part of our single life. It's a part of our married life. We just do this. And it's important. It's been important. It's been the priority from the beginning.
Yeah.
So we set that expectation early, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what we grew up understanding and knowing was something called the tithe, and tithe just means tenth, so it's giving a tenth of our income. It's a biblical principle. It's an Old Testament principle. My personal belief, there are different beliefs on this. My personal belief is that in the New Testament, the tithe has gone away, and that doesn't mean we give less. It actually has ramped up the implications and the importance of giving. But the tenth, that idea of the tenth, is something that has formed us, and so we've used that as the starting point for our giving. You and I have said, all right, so here's what my salary is. So here's what our giving is going to be. We understand that this 10% is going to go, and where's it going to go? It's going to go to our church, the church that we're serving at or attending, right off the top. And on top of that, we're going to round up.
Yep.
Right?
That's just kind of been whatever the 10% is, I just kind of round up.
Yeah.
And because we talk about that tithe thing, and that's such an easy thing. It's a great check mark that you can follow and have it be done, and you can kind of wash your hands and go, I've done my duty.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about generosity, those things aren't equal. And so how do you measure generosity? And which is why we start with the 10th, and then the generosity builds from there. What more can we do? That's just kind of been our measure throughout the years.
So we, for you and I, the 10th is the bare minimum, and then we spend our time looking for opportunities to give over and above that, to give more.
Yep.
Both within the church when needs come up, whether it be funding missions trips or helping students get to different places or pay for camp or whatever, or special projects come along, like Wafer Food Pantry or something else where you say, hey, there's a need here, it's got to be done.
So, we don't take it out of the tally of the 10th.
Right.
We already gave that part there. Yeah. No,
yeah,
it's
we don't
above
say,
and
well,
beyond.
God gets 9%, the church gets 9%, we're going to take 1%. And we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. We're playing with God's money at that point. So we have always given over and above that, and that's been a measure, that's been an exercise in saying, God, whatever you choose to give us that's over this amount, we want to be generous with that as well. But we don't necessarily start counting a percentage again in that. We just respond however God wants us to respond.
And sometimes God says no.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that's not your number.
That's not your number.
And that's okay. But that's all part of the fun part of the process, I think, to have God say, this, I want you to help fund this, versus this is not for you right now.
Yeah.
I've called somebody else to fund this. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a lesson I had to learn. I learned that when I was in seminary, and I was at Moody in Chicago, walking by people every day who were living on the street. And we didn't have a lot of money, but I had some money and a warm house and everything else. And I'm walking to seminary classes every day and walking home. And as I'm doing this, I'm passing folks who needed something. And I had to get to a point where instead of just reaching into my pocket and saying, because I have money, I'm going to give, I had to start asking God, do you want me to give?
Yeah.
And if so, is this the place you want me to give to? Or is it over here? Or is it to that person? Or do you want me to wait and do this tomorrow? Or because the exercise becomes an exercise, a spiritual exercise.
Right.
More than just a financial one.
Yeah, because again, it's so easy just to hand over, a $10 bill, $20 bill and say, I'm generous.
Yeah.
But we completely take God out of the picture then. Yeah. It is that conversation and that letting him lead us in where he wants us to use his His finances, not ours. Yeah.
So we have loosely followed the idea of 10-10-80. We have tried to give 10%, save 10%, live off 80%. But within that, living off 80%, there's
A lot of choices to be
a
made.
lot of choices to be made, and,
Yeah.
and you can do a lot of things. And so we're still. It is not ever. It's never been for us. Well, God has gotten His, therefore I can, do whatever I want with the rest of this. It's all God's money. It's just being submitted to Him in all things.
I think, though, there's a kind of a misbelief that God doesn't want us to enjoy what He's given us.
Yeah.
You look throughout the Old Testament, you look at Abraham, some of these guys were wealthy beyond belief. It all came from God. It wasn't like he only gives us a certain amount that's going to make us, reach the bare minimum. He is a God of wealth.
Yeah.
And it is okay to enjoy the things that He gives us. If we're in a season where we have extra, it is okay to enjoy it. So there are decisions to be made in that extra 80 or that 80%, and there's wise decisions, but we can't forget to enjoy and celebrate what He's done.
In fact, God commands people to enjoy it in more than one place, but He wants people to enjoy what He has given them, and so there's joy in that too. Okay, so I want to just circle back to we chose as soon as it became technologically possible, we chose to do recurring giving that is taken out automatically from our paycheck each time. And so this is something we set up. We have the mechanism to do this via the church website. You can also do it via your bank. There are a lot of different ways you can give, but we don't have to write a physical check.
Yeah.
It just goes. So there are pluses and minuses to that.
Yeah.
There are also folks still at our church who bring something. When they bring an offering, they bring the offering.
Yeah.
They write the check out and they put it, and there's something
I'm just
about
old
that.
school enough to love that.
I know.
It was hard for me to move to electronic giving. It really was, because I valued the putting it, giving over that check. There was something good there.
There's something good. And one of the reasons we have chosen, certainly we've chosen to do this because it's easy, but we've also, I think there's something else in it that I just want to briefly touch on. Dave Ramsey, the Christian financial guy, notoriously hates credit cards. And he has been, if he's been asked once, he's been asked 10,000 times, how come I can't have a credit card and pay it off all the time? You just pay it off every month in full. If I always do that. And I never don't do that, and I always pay it off. Then I'll accumulate points. I'll do this. And his answer is twofold. One, you'll always be tempted to buy more because it's easy. You'd be tempted to buy more than you would have if you were paying cash. And two, the one time that you go, I'm just not going to pay it off this month. Or it's my time to pay off the credit card, but I just got this phone call and I have this medical bill, and it doesn't take 15 exceptions. It takes one in your life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have debt that is crushing debt.
Yep.
And so I don't buy everything that you and I have talked about this. We don't buy everything that Ramsey talks about, but I want to apply that principle for just a moment to our giving.
Okay.
Because I think there's a temptation, there can be a temptation, if you are writing the check out and bringing it physically, we don't worry about that idea that this is the exception, but I just got this phone call, or I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill. it doesn't
Sure.
matter
Sure.
for us that
Yeah.
it's not part of our
Yeah.
it's not part of our budget that we that
It's a
we'd be spending
non-negotiable.
it
Right.
totally,
Yeah.
and it's gone
Yeah.
the minute it comes in.
We never see it.
That little portion is gone, and so there is zero temptation
Yeah.
for even one exception,
Right.
and I think there's something to that.
There is. And I will say one of the reasons that we switched over originally was, just to be honest, I would forget. You know, you're getting paid, whatever cycle it is, whether it's once a month or twice a month or weekly. And I'd get to church and I'd be like, oh, I forgot the checkbook, or, I didn't prepare it. And then I'm trying to figure out, did I give last month? Did I give last week? Did I
Yeah.
get, it was just human error,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
me. And so you kind of lose track of, did I do this? Did I not do this? So there was something appealing to me, as much as I hated giving up the paper check and that act. There was something appealing to me to go, no, I know this will always be done, and done in the right amount of time and off the top, and I don't have to worry about it. My human error part of it.
Yeah.
So
We obviously have this giving initiative called Next. You and I have we've been talking about this for a long time, and what we're going to do. We made a decision. We looked at our finances, and we made a decision that we were going to do two things. One was we felt like we could up our giving out of each paycheck quite a bit, and so we did. We upped that, and then we said, what do we think? What can we do in terms of a larger gift in 2025 for tax reasons, and 2026 for tax reasons, and we just had that. The latest conversation we had on that was Friday. We actually met with our financial guy and had a conversation about that, and then made a decision and felt like we got it. And so we've already filled out our commitment card,
Yep.
and it's ready to go and to be dropped in. But that's just one of those things that because we have finances, it's not that finances have not been stressful in our marriage. It has been stressful because, I've been kind of chronically for many years was chronically underpaid. Yeah. And there were many months like, hey, we're going to pay you, but don't cash the check or don't deposit the check for another week or whatever. There was a lot of that and a lot of being underpaid. And so we're at a point now where by God's grace and through his generosity to us that we can be more generous, and we're trying to do that. But we've had a lot of financial discussions over the years, and we just have tried to not make them dramatic and tried to take some of the sting out of them and some of the me versus you out of them. And that makes decisions like Next an easy conversation.
Yeah, it's an easy conversation. Full disclosure, though, even in those conversations, and the number we decided on isn't without some angst and pain.
Right.
And that's just, at least for me, my sinful nature. I go, what could I do with that money?
Right.
I'm passing on some things that I would rather not pass on, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not a easy. Some ways it's an easy decision, but in other ways there's a cost. Yeah. And it's a good cost, but it's a cost nonetheless. And it's troubling to me to know that my heart still leans towards wanting to hold on to it. When God clearly has said, no, this is the number, but I don't do it without hesitation. I don't do it without when it comes down to it. And, I think that's a good thing. So.
You just said something that I want to make sure we underscore, because how many times when we make a decision to give, what you and I have normally done is we've said, all right, I got kind of a number in my head that I think we should give, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to go and pray about it. You go and pray about it, and then we'll come together and we'll usually over breakfast because that's our thing.
Yep.
So we sit down, and over 32 years of marriage, most of the time,
It's the same number.
it's the exact same number. So when we pray about something, and we bring God into this decision, God is faithful to give us an answer, and he gives us the same answer. I think, though, you brought up, I think it's normal for us to feel this way about finances, that, ooh, this is hard. But here's the other thing. I think we should give sacrificially. I think it should hurt. Mm-hmm. If we're giving and it doesn't hurt a little, my question would be, is that actually generosity?
Yeah.
Are we just giving out of wealth?
Yeah.
You were in the fundraising world for a while, and one of the things that you learn pretty quickly is somebody shows up with a giant gift, like a 7-figure gift, and in the case of some of the things you did, somebody shows up with a 7-figure. It was never, so they're like, they give $1 million. It was never their last $1 million. It was part of a big pile of other millions.
Right. So
it feels like a lot, but it wasn't to them.
To them, right.
And I don't know that it was a sacrifice. It doesn't change they're not going to vacation someplace else this year because they gave that money away. And,
right.
Those are the decisions that you have to make. That's one of the things about wealth that can mess with your mind.
Well, and it's always personal because for that very reason, because we are all in a different place with how much we have, how much God has decided to give to us in whatever season we're in, and how much he's asking us to give of that. And he gets to decide that, but some of us may have a ton, and God's just saying, you know what, this is how much I want you to give, and it's not gonna be what would seem sacrificial. And for others, he's going, no, I see your heart, and I want you to give a little more because it's more about your heart.
Yeah.
That's what he's more concerned about, not the amount.
Yeah.
The amount he will take care of. It is about the heart and where we're at in that. So.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do this today. I know it's always awkward to talk about money in our world, so thanks for agreeing to do it. And thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.